River National Battlefield.
And good evening and welcome to the June meeting of the Murfreesboro City School Board. We're glad to have those of you that are in our audience attendance and those of you that are watching by television at home. Welcome. At this time, I'm going to ask you to stand. We have two teachers tonight who will lead us in our pledge. Jamara DeBerry, a fourth grade teacher at Bradley, Ty Batts, a fifth grade teacher at Cason Lane. And they have been shadowing Dr. Gilbert for the last day or so, learning things they need to learn. Following our pledge tonight, our moment of silence, we want to remember custodian Johnny Scales, who was a custodian at Mitchell Nelson, who passed away this week.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You have the agenda in front of you. I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Communications, Dr. Gilbert.
Yes, we would like to thank the following individuals for their support of our outreach programs: Peggy Seneker, Jim and Judy Smythe, Advanced Financial, Stones River Mall, and the Murfreesboro Lionesses Club. And that is your one communication for the night.
Communications, thank you very much. Consent items. Have a motion to approve consent items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? And there is none. Thank you very much. Action items.
Your first two action items I'm going to turn over to Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Good evening, Board. We have the year-end housekeeping budget amendments for you to go over. In your board packet, there is the information of the actual numbers, and then we gave you some description as far as what each one is. On our revenue side of it, we have picked up additional revenues as we anticipated. We'll never know the full amount because our revenue stream doesn't end until August for this fiscal year due to sales tax collections, and they will come in later. But if you look at the pages that show the actual numbers, you can see the differences of how much additional money we received. $715,000 in property taxes. We received more than we had originally budgeted. The trustees' collection for prior years was $30,000 more. Local option sales tax anticipating $484,000 more. And the BEP growth funds, we have put in the $800,000. That was the original figure we were given back in January. We are very hopeful that we'll actually receive more than that, but we were uncomfortable adding more that we didn't know about. And so those are the additional revenue pieces that we have to amend to the budget. On the expenditure pieces, we have broken down category by category for you, and we show on regular instruction an increase of $287,996, and that was for we had, of course, additional personnel that we hired to handle the extra growth that we had this year. We had additional money in special ed needed for the same reasons for additional growth. The student health support, student support, the health category. Of course, we had additional expenditures there for the same basic reasons of having to have have additional staff, and when we do get grants for things, they show up as the expense in the category lines, but the grants come into the overall revenue line. So you don't really see the revenue. So when we get a grant, it's funded through that particular mechanism. On the next one, we have regular instruction student support, and you can see the explanation on that one as well. We had additional MDAs and EAs that we had to bring in for the additional students that we had. The Administrative Support Board of Education, that amendment is due to the increase in trustee commissions. As you know, we have to pay the trustee commissions, so that's kind of like as the money comes in, we have to send it back out based on the state formula of how much we have to give towards the trustee when we receive additional revenues. Support services for the Office of Director, that was for amendment mostly due to increase in land, fax, and security line fees for the entire district. As you know, our phone system is set up at the central office in the entire district. Through that, individual schools have their own phone systems that come through their own individual accounts, and that doesn't show up in your general purpose budget. It shows up at the individual school level budgets. Support services for the Office of Principal. We had, when we did the original budget, we underestimated on a principal that was put into that position. Obviously, we didn't know at the time we made the budget what was going to be the overall cost for that principal, so we had to increase that salary line. And we also had some additional increases for communications that go in hand with that as well. The operation of plant, that's your water, sewer, gas utilities, and we had increases in our water sewer of $50,000 over what we expected. Gas was $36,000, and our electric was a break even. At our next opportunity, I would like to show you what we're doing in our utility tracking and monitoring. We have the software that you approved about a year ago. I want to show you how that's working in our electricity and what we're doing in the EESI program. And so that'll handle that part of the electricity. We want to add gas as the next element and then water so we can control those like we are going to be controlling our electric bills. Our support services for maintenance of plant, basically it's an increase in repair and maintenance of our buildings. We had more breakdowns than we had anticipated due to the age of some of the older buildings, so we have to budget some additional funds for that. In transportation, as you know, we had to add routes. We had to hire bus drivers and bus assistants. In that particular one, our fuel expenditures, I know you were concerned about that in our budget. Our fuel expenditures were below what we had budgeted, so that was a good offsetting expenditure there. In our technology, we have to amend it because we underestimated the fees for ENA, what it would charge us for it, and the fact that we have some reimbursements monies from the city. So the expenditure for the additional technology that we bought for all the additional students comes out of that line, but we did get refunds from the city based on our formula of us paying 40% and the city paying 60%. But again, the expenditure hits that line. Community services, we have the Sharp School, which is our school-based websites, and that was an increase. It says I think your document says Constant Contact. It's really called Sharp School, so we picked up the wrong name on that one. And we had some additional expenditures for the coaches for our athletic programs, about $5,000 more in that particular category. So we had to amend the budget for that. Capital outlay was a large amount, and the reason for that is we didn't do all the capital outlays that ended in the fiscal year of June 30. Some of our projects ended in July and August, so they had to fall in this year's category. So the previous year, we didn't spend all the money we had allocated, but it hit this year's budget. As you know, we are constantly running every day, and unfortunately or fortunately, the books end at a certain date. Well, it's in the middle of the summer, so some of the projects that get done finish in July, so the expenditure hits in July, which hits in the next fiscal year, so we have to amend the budget for the capital outlay. But those are the main categories that we have to do on the general purpose budget. And so I'm looking to see if there's any additional ones that we need. We also will have the school budget to amend, and then we have some other budget requests from City Hall to do for the 15-16 budget. So what we're asking for you to do is to approve the budget amendments as the housekeeping to make sure that we have all of our amendments in place before June 30th so City Hall can have theirs for their financial accounting into their books as well. As you know, we our information feeds into the city's information. So this is the request that we approve the additional budget amendments to our overall operating budget for the 14-15 school year, the school year that we're in right now.
All right. Discussion? Ms. Phillips?
I had a couple of questions, please, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, ma'am.
On the community services, you talked about constant contact, and you said, did I understand you say that is the school-based websites?
Yes, it's really called Sharp School, and that is the school-based websites. We pay a fee out of the central office so that we have a consistent website basis for every school.
You know, it just crossed my mind. We've got so many great communication majors at MTSU. It might be good to offer an internship rather than pay for to give a student an opportunity to learn and at the same time have that covered. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Throw
And
that out there.
I believe this may be the software program itself that we're using right
Oh, the
here.
software and not someone to manage the software? Okay. And then the second thing is the Administrative Support Office of Principal, that increase to their educational level?
Yes, it can be their educational level or with the number of people they supervise and when their degrees hit, and that's where we got shorted on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions? All right, do we have a motion to approve the amendments?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Second by Ms. Rainier. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Federal projects?
We still have some additional ones. We break it out by categories. The next one is the Cafeteria Fund, and you had a revised sheet given to you tonight. It's the same thing. It's a budget amendment for the 14-15 school year. We received $102,600 in additional revenues from our program, and our expenditures were $145,044. So we had some additional expenditures when we bought equipment and supplies, and you see it's under supplies and materials, and that's the major difference in those categories, and so we have to amend our budget as well. When you amend the budget, the law says that we cannot spend more than what was budgeted. It doesn't say you can spend, that has no calling on whether we spend less or not, so we have to make sure we have the high end covered, and that's what this does. So we're asking for you to amend the school cafeteria budget for 14-15 in the amounts as indicated on the sheet that we handed out to you tonight.
Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
Okay, the next budget amendment is actually one that's going to tie into the 15-16 school years, and this one came to us from the city. City Hall prepares and provides the document. It is the School Debt Service Fund, and what they're doing is they're making sure that our records are the same as their records, so when they file for their budget, it all matches. And so we have the document. It says 15-16 proposed budget, school debt service fund. Now, this is a new thing that was put into the law about 2 years ago, where it has to show if the debt service, even though it's being paid by the city, it is for the schools, that we have to show this and indicate this. It really has no bearing on our actual handling of the books because it's a city report that they do, just that the school board has to approve it. The next piece of that is where it shows on the next page that we handed out this evening, it shows expenditures for other uses and transfers. That's a smaller one, yes, one category. And what that is from is the energy loans that we have established that we pay, it's in our budget that we pay it, and the technology expense that we pay, that 40% of all the computers we bought. And so they updated those figures. And the reason it's changed is because we have gotten permission for a new energy efficiency loan for 15-16 for $1.5 million, and City Hall has estimated that's the additional amount there. The $135 is about what it's going to be per year to pay, so that was an estimate, and they put it in the budget now, and it can be amended later, but they wanted to have it in. So we're asking that you approve the school debt service fund and the amendment with it for our budget, to be put into our budget so it dovetails with what City Hall has.
All right. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Renier. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Any discussion? Questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. The next piece is the federal projects. You received in your board packet that was sent to you the revenue section of that, which shows a total anticipated federal projects of $5,385,200. We gave you tonight, just for your information and clarification, how it's going to be broken out into salaries, benefits, and additional program expenditures. And it's broken down title and Eagle, LEAPS, Volunteer Pre-K, IDEA, Bradley Arts Academy, and Coordinate School Health. But these are the totals. In your original budget we gave you was last year's numbers. We do not get the numbers for this current year until we just got them last month. In May. So when you approved the budget, we didn't have the numbers to give you, and that's always the way it works, and we have to come back and ask for your approval. But I wanted to give you this extra sheet tonight just so you can see how the money will be expended and to see how much actually goes into salaries and benefits out of our federal programs budgets. We're asking for approval on the federal programs revenue and expenditures, and giving the director of schools permission to change during the year if things change from the federal programs or the state programs, or if we have to make a change for a programmatic reason. So, and that is what we typically do, is you approve this with giving the director permission to stay within the budget but make adjustments as we go during the year.
So to have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. King. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Now, questions, Ms. Smith?
This is just a staffing question. Do we have a position? Is there someone that's going to be handling the federal projects now?
Crystal has been handling it, and so she will continue to handle that through until July, and then Karen will be doing that. She's done that before.
So that'll just be additional part of her position.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
The good news is we picked up almost $52,000 more in federal funds this year.
Okay, so then will Karen's compensation package change? Mm-hmm. Will not. Okay. All right. Ms. Phillips?
You know, I'm going down this list. It's fun to read it. Eagle, LEAPS, Pilot, IDEA, or IDEA, depending on how you want to look at it. But just remind me what the Pilot voluntary lottery thing was. I just don't remember.
That's your preschool.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What is Eagle and LEAPS?
Those are your Eagle is a 21st Century Learning Communities grant. LEAPS is it basically is the same thing. It's after school, but it's run strictly through the state.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Ms. Renier?
Aren't they run through ESP?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, seeing no more questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you.
And the next item on your agenda is approval of the Community Technology Center site. You have in your board packet a map, and we have Mr. Lynch is here with a bigger map to show people tonight of this. What this is, and we have folks from the library here to discuss this with us. It's a Community Technology Center that they've asked that we have it located on the Hobgood campus. I'm going to let them do the description of it. I just wanted to go through the process with you as far as what we need to do. After they present, I'll be glad to speak to that. But we have a bigger picture Mr. Lynch can show you, and you can ask questions. But I don't know who's going to be speaking.
I'm going to ask Rita Shacklett's here, who is the head of the library system, and Gary Green is here, who is the library board chair. So we have been working with them, so I'm going to ask them to come forward, please. While they're coming forward, let me tell you how much I appreciate the partnership that Rita has brought to us. As you know, all of our children can have library cards that is handled at the school. Our teachers, our children have access to the books that are in the library. We run that through the Pony, and so it's just been a real great blessing, the benefits that they have brought to our children and our teachers. So thank you so much for your partnership.
Thank you, Chairman Campbell and board members, for allowing us a brief time to introduce to you a project that the Linebaugh Library Board has been working on since late 2013. Former Mayor Tommy Bragg mentioned to us a desire he had concerning making technology available to more citizens of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. At about this same time, the Library Board was considering an advanced technology initiative and began researching the needs of our community. Earlier that same year, the U.S. Department of Commerce released information gathered during its most recent current population survey concerning computer and internet use in the United States. This was a very detailed document that included geographies with populations larger than 65,000 people. As a whole, this survey revealed that about 1/4 of all households had no paid high-speed internet access or connection. I don't want to bore you with a bunch of statistics, but I feel that to understand the need in our community, it is necessary to drill down into these numbers and into this report and give you some additional numbers. It was further reported that in the South in general, this number increased to about 29%. The number increased even more when you considered race, nationality, and education. Households with only a high school education showed a void at approximately 39%, and those with less than a high school education had an astounding 57%. The report also indicated that our specific area showed no statistically significant difference from these averages. We also became aware of a project in San Antonio, Texas, that was solving these same needs of bridging the gap between literacy and technology. Their project is called Bibliotech and is a freestanding, bookless library. Their mission statement and vision is, and I quote, to provide all residents the opportunity to access technology and its applications for the purpose of enhancing education and literacy, promoting reading as recreation, and equipping residents of the community with the necessary tools to thrive as citizens of the 21st century. This sums up exactly the direction we want to head, knowing that citizens of the 21st century having access to high-speed internet connections has never been more important. We use the internet to complete schoolwork, locate and apply for jobs, watch movies and other personal recreation, access healthcare information, and to continue relationships through social media. This touches all ages, all ethnic backgrounds, all citizens. This describes the what, the why, and partially the who. Using the data from the Census Bureau, we began looking at target areas in our community that have the greatest void of internet availability and began focusing in the area between Main Street and Braidable Pike, determining the most central location being along the Mercury Boulevard corridor. After discussions with our city manager and staff, we approached Dr. Gilbert about the possibility of using a portion of the Hobgood School campus as the future home of what we currently are calling the Community Technology Center, is our working project name. Amazingly for us, we were shown your expansion plans and worked with Dr. Gilbert and Mr. Anderson to weave our project into that campus plan. We're most thankful for Dr. Gilbert's and Mr. Anderson's time working with us to present this opportunity for Murfreesboro to you tonight. So now I've briefly described the what, why, who, and where. The rest is the how and the when. From the beginning, our board has planned this to be a combined public-private endeavor. Our board reached out to our foundation and friends organizations, and they together have committed approximately $230,000 to this project. We now need to go out and raise the remaining dollars, targeting local foundations, along with both the city and county governments for support. They know we're coming because we've already approached many of them, and we've received positive responses. But to move forward with them, as well as for grants from the state of Tennessee and other national foundations, we must have a place to call home. We come before you tonight to ask this board to go on record in support of this project. With this support, we will go before the City Council to request that the Linebaugh Library System be either deeded or granted a long-term land lease for a small portion of the Hobgood campus as the home of this technology center. This facility will require a building size of between 5,000 to 6,000 square feet. I could go on and on and on and on, describing how this project will enhance the community through its use as a small business incubator, how we will develop and deliver technology training for our citizens, and especially how we will work with the students, faculty, and families of Hobgood Elementary by opening special hours just for their use. We feel that this is a worthy endeavor and that it will have a distinct positive impact on the lives of the citizens of Murfreesboro. Our library and our city schools have a long history of collaboration, and we believe this project will be another win-win for us and all of our community. Thank you again for this opportunity. Be glad to answer any questions.
All right, let's get our questions. Ms. Smith and Ms. Phillips.
Well, thank you so much for coming and for your research. It sounds like it's very exciting to learn about the programs in San Antonio. I have a number of questions. One was that you answered that I was going to ask you who is paying, so that's important. So you said there's going to be 5,000 to 6,000 square feet is your goal, and the facility is going to be an addition, and that's going to be paid for by your fundraising, correct?
The building, yes, will
Yes,
be,
okay.
and the ongoing operations will be paid through the budgets of the city of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County.
Correct, okay. And how much staff do you expect will be on site?
I'll let you answer that.
We are looking to put all of our big IT staff of like 2.5 people right now. We will locate them there, but we will also have what we're calling an outreach librarian that will be in charge of the facility with probably two part-time library associates.
So if I were to go into your center, what would my experience be like? What can you just kind of explain what all is going to be available at the center?
Where do you want me to start? How long do you have? We are planning, even though this is a bookless library, if you've used the library system at all, you know that we transit items from location to location. So if you were going to be at Patterson Park working out and wanted to pick up your hold over there, you could do so. We plan on moving items that could be checked out if you're going to be at the center and wanted to pick up your hold there, you could do so. But there will not be stacks of books. There will not be DVDs and things like that there. There will be meeting rooms, study rooms. If you're a small business person, would like to meet with a client, maybe you're running your business out of your home, you don't want to meet with a client at home, you'll be able to go online and reserve one of the meeting rooms for a specific day and time. Meet there. If you have a small staff of 3, 5, 10 people and you want to do some specific computer training, we can set up a room. You could reserve a room. And these are all for free. You just have to have a library card. Students working on projects can come in and use a room. They will have computers, projectors, anything you might need technologically wise will be available. We will have banks of computers, and this gets a little out of my depth because I am not an IT person. But they're working on a prototype right now. You will be able to walk up to a computer and select the type of operating system that you prefer using, whether it be a Mac or a PC or a Linux machine. You merely sit down at a computer that you've reserved, and there will be little icons, and you will select if you want a PC or Windows, or if you want an Apple, whatever. You select what you'd like to use there. There will be a children's area with educational games and things like that. We will have 3D printers. We already have 2 if you go upstairs. Children can come in. We're really trying to work with the teachers as far as the STEM and STEAM curriculum, the maker spaces, and working with the different schools with that. So there will be all kinds of gadgets, and so anything pretty much that you need. And there will be IT staff there. If you've got problems with your laptop or you can't download a book on your e-reader, you can come in or call them, and they can at least give you an initial diagnosis.
Wow.
That's what their hope is. And at least say, it's something beyond what we can do. You're going to need to take it somewhere, or, you just need to do this. So lots of different things, and there's probably more to come that we just haven't even thought of yet.
So what do you think your hours will be? I'm a little bit concerned about safety.
Right now we're looking at about 10 in the morning to 8 in the evening, either 6 or 7 days a week.
So how do you see that happening in relationship to it being an academic campus with small children?
Dr. Gilbert and I have already discussed this, and what we want to do is make it available to teachers in their classes before hours, so that we would have staff there and the school children could come in with their teacher and actually work on a project or do whatever they want to before we actually open to the general public.
But it will be on the same campus. I mean, there'll be some barriers.
Well, I think if you look at where it's located, we don't have any playgrounds in that area. We wouldn't have anything there. You have the parking lot that would be adjacent. I really don't foresee this being a lot different than some of our other schools that are next to stores or next to public areas.
Okay, well, thank you. I just wanted to have a little bit more information, but thank you so much for thinking more about the children and the needs of the community. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Phillips?
Thank you both for coming and talking with us. Ms. Shacklett, I am always so impressed by the many ways our library continues to stay relevant to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I had a couple of questions, too, and my biggest concern is security for the children. And I'm wondering, and I don't know how to correctly ask this question, are there limitations put on the computer as to what can be accessed?
Yes.
Okay.
We have very strict firewalls because we have E-rate that I know the schools are using, which is discounts for your telecommunications and internet. So in order to have access to that, we have to have very strict SIPA, or Child Internet Protection Act. We have to go by those guidelines. So yes, they are very strict.
So no one could access anything inappropriate on our campuses?
Well, technically, no, they can't. But, some people do have ways around it, but we try to monitor that as closely as possible.
If you were to find that, how would you handle that?
Anytime we get word that there is someone viewing something inappropriate, we send a message through our system. We can very quietly just go in, and we can actually shut them down from another office. Right. So the IT folks are on top of that. And we have it occasionally, but it's rare that it happens. But we send them a message, tell them that they're viewing something inappropriate, to please discontinue what they're looking at. If they don't, within just minutes, we shut them down, and we ask them to leave, at least for the rest of the day. If it's an ongoing problem, we ask them not to come back.
You know, it's one thing to accidentally access one of
Right.
these things, but if a
Right.
person is intentional in accessing this, I would not want them on the campus ever again,
No.
personally, as
No.
a school
and
campus.
we have rules of conduct that are pretty strict, and so those types of things, they're out, and we flag their record so
Right.
that they're not allowed. I mean, they couldn't get on if they wanted to.
But they could come into your building, though. They could continue to access your building.
Well, when you walk in the door, the plan is you would actually scan your card to go. It's not a browsing library, so there's nothing for them to do if they don't get on the computer.
On the computer, okay.
So that would be, I would say, monitored pretty closely. If there's somebody just wandering around, somebody's going to be asking them what they need.
And I know this, I'm jumping to the worst case
No,
scenario,
you have
but
to,
you have to ask
always
those
have
questions.
to think the worst case, because public libraries are like the schools. You have to think the worst case
Yeah, you have to
scenario.
protect the children. Right. Okay.
All right, other questions, Mr. Barrett?
I think it's a great idea, expanding our access to especially the high-speed internet and technology. What a great initiative. I just had two questions. He said long-term lease. Do you know how many years, or you didn't really specify any number of years there? Is it like 99 or one of these?
We'd
100 year?
probably leave that up to the legal, but,
Okay.
50 plus.
Okay, I figured it was going to be something like that. And then I know you're just starting, and if this is successful, would you plan on expanding this location, or would you go to a new location if
That
this was
is as
successful?
big as we would probably want it to be.
Okay.
Our hope is that we can provide these throughout the county,
Okay.
especially on some of the other school campuses. And in my mind, I'm thinking things like the Blackman area and the Siegel area, where you've got 3 levels of education and lots of families in the neighborhood, that's a perfect spot for something like that.
I live on that west side. I hear a lot of people wanting that
And
kind
Smyrna
of access.
is, Smyrna's looking at, they're hoping that they'll be next.
Thank you.
So they're already thinking ahead, so.
Great.
Dr. Brown?
I will add my thank you. And actually, I've been in several cities across the country that have this concept, and it's amazingly successful. It does a fabulous job. So I'm glad to see Murfreesboro joining that. I do share some of the concerns, and those were some of the questions that I had. But I also want to be sure that this center is used as much as possible. Is there a rover stop there now, and is that something that we've considered?
Have talked with the city about that, and they feel like even if there's not one close enough, that they could get one there.
Okay,
because
because
we want foot traffic too.
Yes, I think rover would be a very good idea. And also, I'm sure that if you start advertising or start publicizing this now, this is an area where you could probably have a lot of volunteers to come in and teach classes.
And we already do. We teach classes at Line Ball and have a lot of volunteers that come in to do those classes. And we're always doing different classes. When somebody says, can we have a class on, we'll do
I think in this specialized setting, you're going to have some real
And also we hope to
success
pull
there.
on college students, some internships and things like that. Gives them experience as well.
Other questions? Ms. Phillips?
I thought of one last one. If you were talking about the classes, which is great, will there be child care for any young children? The reason I think of that is because I think they're going to see the playgrounds across the field, and they're going to want to play, and how would this work during the school hours, and that might be an issue. So,
we don't get into child care. That's kind of a sore spot with public libraries, because we have people that want to drop their children off, and we would love to say that the public library is the safest place on earth, but we all know it's a public facility and everyone's welcome, and so we don't allow children under the age of 12 to be unaccompanied by either a guardian or a parent. So this might be tweaked a little bit, but safety-wise, you talk about safety, it's just not a smart thing. And then you get into child care and all the issues that go with that.
Yes, my concern was if there was not someone comes with young children that they say, play on the playground, play on the playground while mom does this real quick.
Right.
The playgrounds would have the same rules that we have as far as during the day. We would not no one would access those until 6 o'clock.
And who's going to enforce that?
Well, we kind of have that right now.
If this, and believe me, I support this completely. These are just little things you think of.
Right.
What can you do to solve this before it happens?
Right, and those are things we definitely need to.
Right.
And at some point, it's got to be up to the parents. Whether we like it or not, there is a point where we can't monitor every single minute of every single day.
I think a couple of things will help that. I think if you look at the plan, where they will be located will be at an area, really the school itself. Even you're looking at the gym, you're looking at the parking area there. So mainly your entrance to that school will be, and activity on that school will be on the other side. The other thing that I would have to say about the playground, it'll be on the south side, on the other side of the parking lot, so you won't have the proximity will be across the parking lot. But I would expect Hobgood in that instance to do the same thing we see during the day, that we would see children that would be there, that we would have someone explain that those playgrounds are not accessible until after ESP. Mm-hmm. And we stick to that pretty tightly.
Other question?
Couple observations. I noticed the parking lot. I just noticed the additional 12 spaces, so I'm assuming that was the parking lot, the intent of the parking lot to be for teachers?
The parking lot that you're seeing there, the one that has the various, they almost look like columns, but that's to access the gym area. That's the new addition that's coming in there at Hobgood. And so you have the access of the gym area there, and then you have kind of an additional parking area over here that would be.
It looks like
you could expand either way, but really the parking lot for the CTC would be the area that you have right there immediately. I guess it would be south east of the building that you have.
Okay. And if I'm right, I'm counting at least. I got up to 70, probably 75 spaces if I'm reading this correct. So, this won't put the teachers out if they were planning to park there.
Your teachers are probably going to park about where they park now, which is going to be over, you could have some parking
off
there.
Baird Lane.
But that area, if you think about Black Fox or some of the larger schools, this would be about that same size.
Okay.
And so you're looking at that parking area really being for the gymnasium and for activities that you would have at night for the school.
Okay. And the exterior of the school, the new center, will it look like the current school now? Will it look very similar architecturally, if you will?
We want it to blend very well, but we want it to be distinct also.
Good.
Particularly if somebody's calling in wanting to reserve a room, we don't want them to call the Hobgood front desk and say, can we reserve a room?
Yeah,
but we want it to look maybe a little more modern, a little more contemporary. We're looking at possibly sloped roofs compared to the flat roofs that Hobgood currently has.
But like you said, more, it would blend in with the school, but yet stand out so that we don't have people going up to the front door of the school going, I'm here for my meeting.
Definitely.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You've kind of go way over there. I see that happening.
We're looking at a brick and metal blend on the exterior of that, and glass on the exterior of that building.
Ms. Smith?
2 questions. One is, will you have bilingual offerings? Is that in the works?
We have some of our databases already. We have some foreign language, English as a second language, databases currently that is available. And we have materials that are bilingual. We would love to have some computer classes. We've tried it in the past next door, but we've not really had that kind of a turnout. But if we're in an area where there is one, we would certainly love to have bilingual computer classes.
Well, we've certainly had growth in the schools.
Right.
With the school children, I feel certain that their parents would like to have greater offerings as well. And the other is that I am assuming that all of the policies that we've set forth regarding campuses for the city schools, that y'all will be following the same policies. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sure we'll be working very closely with Dr. Gilbert.
Great.
To make sure that we're not overstepping anything that we shouldn't.
Thank you.
Ms. Phillips?
Signage. I'm curious about your signage. What do you have planned for the center? Signage.
Oh, signage. I'm sure that's going to come into play when we get ready for as far as on the building, there will certainly be something. We'll have to be working with codes, and when we get more into the architecture. We have talked with the city about some directional signage as well. But because there's a ball field from the Mercury Boulevard section, you'll be able to see it. So it should be easily, found.
Right. I think that might address some of Mr. King's concerns
Yes.
as good signage and directional
And
things.
hopefully it will be on at least two sides of the building so
Right.
that, from Mercury and from Minerva, you'd be able to tell what it is.
Right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, Mr. Anderson, you want to tell us what we need to do about property?
What we need to have done is to say that the school board endorses that this facility be located on our property, and it's really up to City Hall how they want to handle whether it be a lease or a property exchange. So they're looking for endorsement so that they can take it to this City Council and say the school board has endorsed us putting this program on the property of Hobgood.
If we endorse it and then it's left up to the city council, whoever it might be, after we endorse it and that property is deeded over or leased over, whatever, to the library board, then our hands are not involved in it any longer. Am I correct? As far as any type of upkeep or any type of security?
I would yield to Ms. McGannon on that one.
Certainly, the lease can be structured to include a requirement that there be consultation and involvement with the school board and the director as regards those issues, security in particular, and joint operation. But my understanding of the intent is that all of the expenses would be borne by the library, and that you could ask that the lease or whatever transactional document was developed be reviewed and perhaps reviewed by the school board, or you can ask for what you want for in terms of approval, because I think is the intent of the library and the school staff that it function as a united project. But I don't think that the lease or sale, I think it's more likely to be a lease, would have the school board as a party to it necessarily. I don't think that would be appropriate or required.
Now, will there have to be zone changes and that sort of thing, exemption for this building on that property in that neighborhood?
Well, there wouldn't have to be a zoning change. One of the reasons I think it's more likely that the decision will go towards a lease rather than a sale is so that you don't have those issues about setbacks and separate parking requirements and those sorts of things as you would if it were a sale of the city-owned school property to the library entity. I think a lease would be the more appropriate, but I would not envision a zoning change as being required.
So if we lease the property, do they have to have approval to build?
The city, for all city construction, schools, and library facilities, goes through the normal city process in terms of getting building permit approvals, sign approvals. So it would go through the same process before construction as any other construction in the city, because we apply the same standards to governmental as well as non-governmental bodies.
Okay. And then it would be up to the library board to get those
Yes.
documents?
Yes. My understanding of the transaction is the expectation is that the library board would be responsible for the initial coming together of the project and the ongoing operation. As you know, the library is funded by contributions from the city and the county, but as they've already done fundraising for a number of library-related entities and private entities, so the expectation is that this budget would be managed by the Linebaugh Library Board.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Smith?
How would this hinder the future growth of Hobgood for our student population?
That's an excellent question. We do not intend to expand Hobgood anymore. Our core facility, we're building out to our core facility maximum. So the school, as it's established, you can see on your sheet, I don't know if you can read the finer print on it, the school is set up to grow up to 650 students in that school, and that's as much as we would be able to put on that site.
Okay, so in my thought process, of course I'm enthusiastic about this idea for the community, but I would want to have as one of your main objectives to for you to benefit the educations of the children from Hobgood School. So.
We actually have a meeting scheduled next week, and we're pulling in not only her IT staff, but our IT staff, and also involving MTSU, their IT education person, and also their facilities person to see what we can do as far as within Hobgood. Hobgood was the first school that really embraced technology, and I think it'll be interesting to see what can come of this.
I want to make sure we have it in writing for it to be for beyond the Greens and the Shacklets and the Gilberts, for people to understand that would be a focus.
Right.
Ms. Phillips?
And I like Ms. McGannon's suggestion that the agreement be worded in such a way that the library does work in conjunction with the city schools regarding issues such as security and anything else that would be relevant to both of them. So if that can be in the agreement, contract, whatever it's called, that would be good. Lease.
All right.
One more small.
Mr. King?
One small request. I noticed the address for Hobgood is South Baird Lane. I just asked that the street address for this be Minerva or anything other than Baird. And trust me, I see it at minimum once a week where people go to the wrong address because the address is very similar. Not all GPSs are accurate, things like that. So I would maintain as much of a different street address as I could from Hobgood School. That'll help the center too. I can see you getting your mail mixed up, that sort of thing.
Well, actually, the location is fronted by Minerva. All right. Okay, we've had questions. We've had presentation. We now need a motion to move forward.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips, Ms. Smith, and a host of others. All right. Any other discussion? If not, those of you in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? And there is none. Ms. Shacklet, Mr. Green, congrats, and let's move forward quickly. Thank you.
The meeting space will be beneficial.
All right. Approval of surety bond.
Sir, the next item is the approval of the surety bond. This is a state requirement that the person who is over the finance of the school district has a statutory amount established as what the amount is going to be for the surety bond. In our case, it's $1,508,900. We have no control over that number. It's established by the state of Tennessee. It is written for me as the finance director, and we do this annually. It is a state requirement. So we're asking for approval of the purchase of the surety bond to stay in compliance with state of Tennessee rules and laws.
All right. Do we have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Second?
Second.
Mr. King, is there any discussion? Mr. Barrett?
The one I'm looking at says School District Nolensville. Is that right? That should be. Is that the wrong one?
That's where
What it says,
Oh, it's where you live. I'm sorry. Okay, never mind. Wasn't sure about that.
any other questions?
Nope.
All right, those of you in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
Oh.
And there is none. All right.
You turning back. Get this.
Reports and information.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Merle Smith. She's our coordinated school health person. Merle does an amazing job with our coordinated school health. All districts in Tennessee have this position, but Merle is kind of the star, I think. So I've asked her to come and give you a kind of a year in review brief. She has the list of what she has done this year is pretty amazing, but I'm going to leave it up to you as far as what you share with them, Merle.
All right, thank you for having me. I do just want to hit a few highlights of what Coordinated School Health has done this year. This is by no means an extensive list of everything that we have done, but just some of the bigger projects that we have accomplished. Something that we're really proud of is in-kind and direct funding that we have brought into the school system this year is over $243,000 just for Coordinated School Health. Over $64,000 of that was in direct funds through grants and other various projects. One great thing is we finally got official data from the state this year for all of the BMI that we collect each year on our students in K2, 4, and 6. And it shows a 5.6% reduction in BMI for Murfreesboro City Schools from the 2007-8 school year to the 2012-13 school year. That's the most recent data that we have. That's official data from the state. We do keep some data ourselves, but this is where they crunch all the numbers and remove all of the dirty stuff from the data. To me, I think that's a great reduction in BMI for our school system. It shows that the things that we're doing are on the right path and we're headed in the right direction, and I can only hope that that number goes down. Right now, we are only at 35.2% in the 2012-13 school year of overweight and obese students, which is below the state average. So that's a great place for us to be. Some other things that we've done this year, we brought in some new health education curriculum that was evidence-based, approved by the Coordinated School Health Office in the state, all funded through Blue Cross Blue Shield, so no cost to the system. Organ-Wise Guys and Go Noodle, which is an online-based program for every teacher in our system to have access to. It's at a value of about $1,500 per school per year. And any teacher can go on and sign up. It's 5-minute brain breaks to get the kids up and moving in between academic assignments. We have continued the Junior Chef program. We had over 181 students complete that program this school year at 12 different schools. It's a fantastic program where kids get to come and actually learn how to cook in the kitchen. They get health education as a part of that, and then they prepare a graduation kind of refreshments for their parents where they learn how to plate it, they learn how to clean up. Very positive from the parents, very positive from the kids. We're looking to continue that program next year. MTSU has been a great partner, as they are with a lot of things for us. We have partnered with them to offer tennis camps, soccer camps. The soccer camp actually kind of moved into a soccer intramural program for Murfreesboro City Schools this year, where we offered over 256 students the chance to play soccer for 4 weeks to learn the basics of soccer and then end in a jamboree at the end of the year. Mitchell Nelson and Bradley were very competitive at the end of the school year. We host interns on a regular basis. MTSU is a great partner with supplying us with health education and exercise science students that are in the health field to further with projects and man hours for city schools. MTSU also performed a great feat at the end of the school year by hosting 1,200 of our third grade students at the MTSU Dairy Farm, where kids got to experience real-life dairy animals, gardening, beekeeping, and equipment on the farm. I heard kids leaving saying it was the best field trip they've had all year, so that completely made my day. That was fantastic. But lots of education that went into that as well, science projects and other things they got to do on site. The USDA Farm to School project is still something that's very big and forefront in our minds. We have a farmer educator now that's paid for by the grant, and she is able to install raised beds at Overall Creek Elementary. We're fixing to put up a greenhouse at a location to be determined. And that is going to be able to supply fresh foods into our cafeterias, following the USDA regulations. That's only the start of what we hope is a bigger movement in Murfreesboro City schools to be able to offer more fresh fruits and vegetables to our kids and get them into the educational aspect of where their food comes from. We will have a district plan in place by October of this year. We will share with the board when that is in place. That is a district plan that we hope to replicate not only in our own district but throughout the state as well for other districts to pick up. We have screened over 3,500 students this school year for BMI, height, weight, vision, and hearing. All of those are things that could prove to be a barrier to learning for students. And so by doing those screenings, we are able to alert parents and teachers to potential problems and be able to help remove those barriers for students who don't have access to care. And we continue with our dental transport program. We continue with our staff wellness programs. We believe that healthy staff that are in the classroom help children learn better, so we want to keep our staff healthy. And we are continuing with outreach to the community at large with different programs for families to get involved in being healthier. So that's just kind of an overview of some of the bigger projects that we've done this year. There's lots of other smaller things that we're involved in, but we are always looking for other ways to outreach to our community and make our students healthier.
Thank you, ma'am, very much.
Thank you.
Job well done. Thank you. Dr. Brown?
Well, I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, and obviously you're doing a lot of things. But as a pediatrician physician, I cannot say how amazing a 5.5% drop in the obesity rate is for the culture that we live in today. You're obviously doing a lot of things right, and I hope that number can continue to drop. But thank you, because you have changed through the work that is being done the lives of children, because these are health effects that will be prevented 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 years down the road. So that's a fabulous success story.
Thank you. We're very proud. That is what we're all about, is changing the culture of our students' lives and providing them long, healthy lives for years to come.
Ms. Smith?
So I'm so glad that you have the Farm to Table program. That the more of that you can do, the better at every school. I recently was at Scales, and they were showing the gardens that they have, and just to show how to grow and to have the healthy food. I mean, across the board, that's just fantastic. On the screenings. Mm-hmm. What is the process? So if you have a child and they have a vision screening, what's the average age for the vision screenings? Or is that...
We start in pre-K. We do screenings actually in pre-K as required by the state. We partner with the Lions Club to come in and do those screenings in pre-K and kindergarten with the SureSight machines. And then in second, fourth, and sixth, the Lions Club comes in with a different machine that measures distance and near vision. And if the child fails, they get a report home to the parent that says that the child failed and how they failed, whether it was near, far, right, or left eye. And then there's some instructions on the bottom as to kind of how to interpret those results. And then for vision and hearing, that also goes to the teacher, for the teacher to be able to follow up with the parent and student to make sure that they're receiving the access to care that they need. If a student doesn't have access to care, so they don't have vision insurance, then we can connect them with certain vouchers that enable them to be seen and receive a prescription.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Phillips.
That's okay. I was just going to say, you always do amazing things, and I really appreciate the way you're accessible to the community and the community partnerships. Thank you so much for that.
We couldn't do anything without our community partners and our support from within our own school system as well. Sandy with nutrition, it plays a very integral part with our Farm to School program. So great support. Thank you very much.
Well, while you mention nutrition, I think we all need to kind of hold our shoulders back on our chow bus. It has really gotten some publicity this week all across the nation. That is great. Miss Shealy and everybody has done a super job with that. It's really good to see some very good positive things coming out across the airways for children in public schools. All right. Gifted Academy.
This last week we had 33 teachers, all schools represented at MTSU. As you know, we have partnered with MTSU and received approval from the state for our teachers who go through it's actually 80 and a half hours of training to receive the employment standard, which means that they will be able to teach students who are gifted without any consultation. I really want to thank Leah Barch and also Stacy Burt for heading that up, working very closely with Leslie Craig Ungerfer at MTSU. Before last week, you had the teachers that were spending really 4 weeks with online work, studying. They will follow up this Gifted Academy then with 2 sessions in the fall and 2 sessions in the spring. But I think that it's pretty amazing to sit in that room was such a joy on Friday afternoon and to hear the teachers talking about what they had learned. So I'm extremely excited about what's happening with our outreach to our gifted students, because I do believe that the strategies that are used for those students will help all of our students. So I really appreciate our gifted coordinators and also MTSU with partnering with us with that. And that's the update on that.
Okay. Attendance?
Yes, in your packet is the information. This is the last report for the school year. Usually we give it to you later in the month, but I wanted to get it to you since the school year has ended. We dropped 11 students from the previous month. A lot of that's because people move out of the district at that time after TCAP, and so dropping 11 was not a bad issue for us. Our numbers held very well during the whole year, with our total pupil-teacher ratio at 20.13, and our average attendance is still an amazing 97%, even for the last month of school, which is very strong. So we have 8,063 students, counting our pre-K, all special ed, all regular ed, and as we get ready to head into the next school year, our numbers are appearing to be very strong in kindergarten, and we expect to be able to hit our budgeted numbers for next year as well.
Okay. All right. Any other business? I've got a couple items I want to remind you of. There was a thing that came out from Tennessee School Board about fall district meetings, and kind of be thinking about that and whether or not you'd like to attend. And also there was, I believe it was TSBA that came out with a great explanation on how the cut scores were calculated. If you haven't seen that, you might want to go back and look at it, because it's really very interesting. You have to be a pretty good mathematician, but even I could follow along part of it. Okay. Anything else to come before this board tonight, Dr. Gilbert?
Mr. Campbell, I just want to thank the Murfreesboro City family, and I also want to thank this board and the City Council. Recently, Murfreesboro was named 23rd best in the nation for cities with public schools. That could not have happened without the tremendous staff that we have in this district, and also without the support of the community, the support of the board, and the support of the council. So I think the city certainly has something to be proud of. I think we certainly have something to be proud of, and I just want to thank the staff and also you all in the council for your support.
Okay, Ms. Phillips?
I just wanted to welcome and thank Ms. McGannon for being here tonight. It's been a long time since I've seen you at one of our meetings, and just welcome. Thank you.
Anything else to come before us tonight? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. All those in favor, go.